Hello สวัสดีค่ะ My name is Paris. Right now I live in UK. Welcome to Paris Valentine channel. ตอนนี้เราอยู่เซ็นทรัลแพดดินตันกันจ้ะเดี๋ยวเรากำลังจะเดินไปขึ้นทัวร์เรือกันนะ
Yeah, how you doing? So you cool? Yeah. Huh? How is it? Come on, it's you.
อันนี้ไว้เติมน้ำมันเหรอทุกคนแพริสถึงที่ขึ้นเรือแล้วนะแพริสคาดว่าเดี๋ยวเราต้องข้ามสะพานตรงนู้นไปเพื่อที่จะไปจุดที่รวมตัวในการขึ้นเรือตรงนั้นแหละมันมีแถวยืนอยู่น่าจะเป็นตรงนั้นแน่เลยอะทุกคนจะเป็นเรือลำไหนนะลำนี้หรือเปล่าทุกคนตอนนี้อันนี้ก็จะเป็นประวัติของ Little Venice นะคะเขาเรียกว่า Bounding Pool ตรงนี้ที่เราอยู่ Bounding Pool ก็จะเป็นเนี่ย Little Venice เลยเดี๋ยวเราจะไปขึ้นเรือกันที่ตรงแถบ number 2เนี่ยค่ะเพื่อนๆตอนนี้แพริสอยู่ที่เจสันโบ๊ททัวร์นะเดี๋ยวเราจะไปล่องเรือกันค่ะเพื่อนๆในลอนดอนนี้จะมีแม่น้ำมีคลองมีอะไรเยอะแยะไปหมดเลยอันนี้ก็จะเป็นที่เราจะมาขึ้นเรือเพื่อที่จะทัวร์คลองนะคะจุดที่แพริสขึ้นนี่จะชื่อว่า Little Venice แล้วเดี๋ยวเราจะนั่งยาวไปลงที่ตลาดแคมเดนค่ะเดี๋ยวเราไปเจอกันค่ะเพื่อนๆได้ถ่ายเรือตอนลงแบบเดินเข้ามาโดนน้ำแน่ทุกคนแพริสอยู่ในเรือแล้วค่ะเดี๋ยวแพริสจะนั่งเรือไป Little Venice ของเรานะคะเราไปดูวิวด้วยกันเลยค่ะ
And our canals are old industrial highways. They were built 200 years ago. Before engines were invented, the Industrial Revolution was happening. They had to move heavy items around the country. With no trains, no cars, no proper roads, it was a major problem. So they built a network of liquid highways, canals. Now they go over most of the country. The Grand Union Canal that we're on now comes down from the north. If we turned the boat around, we took you the other way, we can take you all the way to York in the north. We can take you to Manchester, to Liverpool, Birmingham, over to Wales, Oxford, Bristol, Bath, down to Guildford, back to here. If we take you to Birmingham and we go by canal, you will need your sleeping bags. More than 2 weeks. By the way, look on the right side. On the right, this little island is known as Browning's Island. And it's named after Robert Browning, a famous English poet who used to live here in the 19th century. Now, as the Grand Union Canal opened at this end, Paddington End in London in 1801, it was not called Browning's Island at that time. The local boaters and people who lived and worked on the canals, they knew that as Rat Island eventually. It became known as Browning's Island because the estate agents, as the world moved on, they wanted to gentrify this area. It wasn't called Little Venice, it was just Paddington. It was a bit scruffy. Estate agents prefer names to sound twee and lovely, so they called it Browning's Island. Browning's Island at Little Venice. Now over on the right, which you can't see now because the boats are in the way, there's the last little bit of the Grand Union which stops just a short distance after Paddington Station. The Grand Union opened here in 1801 as the main industrial highway coming down from the north. Now the blue bridge in front of us is the beginning of the Regent's Canal. It was built a bit later It was built to extend the canal network across North London down to Limehouse Docks on the River Thames. At Limehouse Docks you can get on another canal. It will take you into Hertfordshire. Look on the left side. This pathway is for horses. Canal boats were pulled by horses until engines were invented. The pathway on the left is called the towpath or the towing pathway. It is usually on one side only. It's on our left side. There's a house on the left and that is where payment was made back in the old days to use the canal. These are toll houses. There are hundreds of toll houses, most of them private homes now because canals have changed. The canals were built only for industry. They had horses pulling the boats and then engines came and road and railway transport took over. We still use the canals a little bit for industry, but mostly we live on them. Now try not to stare into anyone's home, but look around you at our boats. Most of these are permanent homes for people living inside, and look at the shape of them. Standard canal boats in this country are this long and narrow shape. Many of our canals are very narrow. This canal is a bit wider, we can have wider boats on it, but any boat that is wider than this one that you're on, or the ones you're looking at, will not fit those narrow canals, narrow locks, narrow bridges, narrow tunnels. I'm leading up to what we call canal boats. Look at the modern boats each side. Today we can use all of the boat as a home. Bottled or cala gas that we use for cooking. We have coal and wood stoves to keep warm. We have water tanks with fresh water. We have showers. We have toilets. Toilets are not emptied into the canals. There are pump out stations and services for that. And we now have engines instead of a horse, and engines make electricity. All of those modern electric items you have at home, we can have in our boats. But we can travel, we can take our homes with us. There's more than 23,000 of us living on the canals, but you are looking at modern boats. None of those boats were here in the old days. The boat you are inside this afternoon is a very special original working narrowboat. The name of this boat is Jason. It was built in 1906. It was pulled by a horse. You guys are sitting in the cargo hold. We're going to go through a tunnel. Ahead of us is a hill. The canal goes through it, 272 yards of it, no pathway for horses. I'm going to explain how they got through. You will need to listen carefully to this. The towpath is on the left. Before the tunnel entrance it stops. The horse had to be untied. Somebody would walk the horse over the hill and they would be waiting at the other end of the tunnel for the boat to get through. To get the boats through, they pushed them through with their feet. Look at the front of the boat and use your imaginations. They placed a plank of wood across the front of the boat, so across the front, so it's sticking out each side. Two people would then go onto the plank. One person on the left side, they'd lie on their back on the plank with their legs out, and one person on the right side lying down on the plank with their legs out, and through the tunnel they pushed along the side walls with their feet. It was called legging or walking a boat. But you've got the gist of it. All tunnels are different. If this was not so wide, they would not need to have that plank of wood. If it was a lower ceiling, they could lie on the cabin roof, put their feet up, do it that way. And this is only a short tunnel. There are tunnels that are 2 miles long. The longest tunnel in the country is actually 3.2 miles long. That is more than 6 kilometres. Coming to the end of the tunnel, they could stop legging the boat. The horse would be waiting on the towpath, left side, and they would continue with 1 horsepower. 1 horse is all you need to pull a boat like Jason. Now Jason weighs 20 tons. Remember, we can put another 30 tons inside. Only 1 horse was needed to pull the boat. I can pull this boat on my own. You could pull this boat on your own as well. It is the water taking the weight and doing a lot of the work for you. Engines were being put into boats as early as 1911. But they carried on using horses, and they were still using horses along here until 1956. As the canals were built for industry, factories were built along the canals. And if you look up on the left side, you will see a power station. And it was built here so that coal could be brought by canal. The coal was burnt in furnaces to make electricity, but we don't do that in our cities today because of pollution. And that has become a storage power station. Can you see arch-shaped markings where there were tunnels? They're bricked up now, they're no longer used. But those access tunnels are where they unloaded the coal into the power station. The empty boats took away the waste, the ash and clinker, and it was used for brick making and road surfacing. Almost everything could be recycled back then. Now let's talk about what they were carrying. These were the main highways. Everything we put on road or rail would have gone by canal. They carried coal, waste products, fruit and vegetables going from farms into the towns. There would be iron ore, limestone, clay going to the potteries industries and the pottery, building materials. And then coming from all over the world, brought by ships into our ports, would be things like tea, coffee, spices, and then carried on the canals to factories for processing. Paper, cotton, rubber, fruit juice from the Mediterranean, barrels of beer, barrels of wine, blocks of ice. I don't think I haven't thought of that one. We imported ice from Norway and some from Canada before we had fridges. It was carried on the canals and stored in ice houses. This big house, it is the first one of 7, not built in the 1800s, not designed by John Nash. These are new. There's 7 of them. We can see the first 2 of them clearly. The next 4 will be hidden behind little trees, and these were designed by Quentin Terry, and they were designed to look a bit like the older John Nash houses. So let's look on the left side. This private garden, it is one of the largest in central London. It goes all the way to the next bridge. You can't see these gardens when you're walking around the streets. They're hidden behind brick walls. You were never supposed to see any of this. Canals were never built for pleasure. The very idea of them being used for pleasure must have been a bit mad. They were hidden away. These were dirty industrial waterways with dirty boat people. The Regent's Canal goes around the north side of Regent's Park because the rich people did not want to see it. This is Macclesfield Bridge. This one's got an interesting story. It was blown up. It happened in 1874 when a boat passing underneath with some cargo of gunpowder, and the gunpowder exploded. The whole bridge came down. Now they rebuilt it, putting the iron columns back up. We have a little bit of London Zoo here. Sorry we're not going to see much. The bushes have got too overgrown. Opened, or first opened, 1828. One of the oldest in the world. Important for education and conservation now. And we're not likely to see any animals unless they're standing right next to the fence. It's important for, as I said, education and conservation. A lot of zoo animals will be on international breeding programs to help protect endangered species. We're coming to the end of the zoo. The Regent's Canal turns left, and we're heading into the Primrose Hill area. The boats on the right side are owned by the people who live in the houses behind them, so they're paying rent to keep their boats on those spaces. And the boats on the left side are using visitor moorings. All of the boats on the left can only stay there for a short time, and then they have to keep moving on. 2 different sides to the canals. The tow path is usually on one side only. No need for it to be on both. The opposite side we call the off side. Usually private property with no pathway for horses, and along here on the off side some very attractive little gardens for you to look at. Freya's learning to swim. Special needs people, and the building itself was built in the early 70s, and the children at the time helped raise the money. And there's a bunch of little pirates, or slightly bigger looking pirates. They're either been out or they're just going in. And this is a proper licensed activity centre. Everybody is looked after safely. They see big boats like us coming along, they make sure everyone is safely out of the way, give them a nice cheerful wave. And then engines came and road and railway transport took over. Industries moved away. The factories have been turned into offices, flats and studios. And Camden is now famous for the market. Background, I think the lady walking. Oh, somebody's got a green top on. Can you see those? They're all cut marks. They're all road marks. And there are road marks on the other side of the horse bridge up there as well. As we wend Jason around, and if you look over to the right at those locks, the two gates across the canal, you see there's a blue boat in one of those locks. And that boat is slowly rising up to this level. There's about a 10-foot drop on the other side of the gates.
เสาร์อาทิตย์ก็จะมีตลาดด้วยดีว่ะเรือสำหรับนั่งได้ด้วยอ่ะขอลาไปก่อนนะทุกคนวันนี้นั่งเรือจบแล้วจ้าบ๊ายบายอย่าลืมกดไลค์กด Subscribe กดกระดิ่งติดตามไว้จะได้ไม่พลาดคลิปต่อไปนะจ๊ะเพื่อนๆ